and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Joy and Gratitude. And I don't know about you all, but if you are watching on YouTube, you should see how radiant Beth looks today. She is a ray of sunshine. So, Beth, how are you doing? And tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Wow. I first of all, thank you for that lovely compliment. It's such a good reminder to just tell people what you think when you see them because look at how much cheerier I am. If I was radiant before, I'm even more now. Yes, today we're going to talk about creativity, which is kind of part of why I'm wearing this like flary, fun, colorful outfit. How do we allow ourselves to lean into creativity and stay in creator mode? I've talked about creator mode a lot. Like, how do we shift out of victim mode and move into a place of creativity where we are the ones that have agency and can start to create and see more possibilities. So Neo, what a fun topic. And by the way, if you're watching and can see Neo, she too is wearing the most glamorous, glorious floral kind of number. So, and if you can't, just know if you've seen Neo, she's always looking pretty amazing and inspiring and creative through what she wears. So here we are today, both bringing it with creativity in just as simple as how we dress, which I kind of love. Shows you that creativity can be infused in every part of your life, from your clothes, from how you speak, from how you think, from how you show up each and every day. So with that, I'm going to toss it back over to you, Neo. Tell me what you think when we talk about creativity.
You know, one word, and I know I may overuse the word, but it's the word that really counts, and that is choice.
Mm.
And with creativity, the difficulty is the amount of choice. And sometimes we get scared about taking that courageous step to do something that maybe no one else is doing. And it is something that comes comfortable and at the same time daring for us, but it's really a choice. There's a book, and it's called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. And this is a book that talks about how the biggest problem that we have in our society today is the abundance of choice. There's so
Mm.
many choices that it actually stifles our creativity and our ability to choose what to do. So when we think about creativity, start small. Start with what you feel you can control. And the only thing you can control is you. You can
Mm.
control if you, for example, for me, I find great creativity in my hair. I love changing my hair.
I love that you
It
change your hair
goes
so much.
with my day, how I feel. When I want to get my energy up, I do something dramatic. When I just feel very zen, I do very simple. But it is my flair, And I remember, I don't know if you remember back in the days when you used to go to, what was the name of that restaurant? It was a very known restaurant that Fridays.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
TGIF.
when you used to go to Fridays and TGIFs, and you would see that the the ID badges that the individuals that worked there wore, they would put their flair
Yes, on
on
the suspenders
on
or
their suspenders,
yes.
or sometime that thing, the lanyard, what do they call that thing? Lantern?
Lanyard.
Lanyard. So on their lanyard or their suspenders. And it was all about their creativity. Nobody had the same buttons, nobody had the same thing, but it was their ability to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. So with creativity, start small in just showing people who you are, what you love, and then take the risk that's worth taking.
I love it. I love it. I have to say, I'm I'm like laughing because when you talked about choice, then this overabundance of choice that can make you sort of freeze. All I could think about was the stupid clicker. And when, you're trying to find a show when you're with a friend or partner, your spouse, and you just I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've aborted watching a show because it's like there's too many. And now, like, it used to just be like, could we land on a genre? Like,
Right.
are we in crime drama? Are we in? And now I can't. So I say, if this is going to be one of those nights where we're clicking through and we don't find anything, like, I'm out, because it's like it stresses me out so much that there's so many choices. And I think back to like when we had 3 channels. I know I'm aging myself, but like there were the main network channels and then
Hmm.
maybe a couple of others,
Right.
and that was it. And so I agree with you. I literally think about this very clear example where too many choices makes me shut down and watch nothing because I just can't deal with it. And so I also think one of the things that we've talked about and we talk about a lot, this idea of slowing down and this idea of stillness. And for me, it's incredible now that I know this tool, that in stillness and in silence and in mindful moments, I am so much more creative. When I'm on the treadmill, when I'm running and racing and like do, I have very little creativity. I'm just in execution mode. I can't even access the side of my brain that has creativity in it. And I remember working with a lot of leaders. Some of the leaders of startups would say like their best ideas came in the shower.
Hmm.
And that's sort of a known thing, but it's like for a lot of people, that's their only downtime. And now with electronics and technology and all of the things that are coming at us, it's quite true. Like that's like a place where, no one's bothering you. You're by yourself. There's nothing that can distract you. And that is when they get their thinking time. And one of the other things that we talk to right now, I'm sure you do too with your clients, with leaders and other
Hmm.
humans, is this idea of time blocking. And
Yes.
how ironic that time blocking, which is basically saying I'm going to set aside a certain time in my day for a particular activity, that now we actually have to do that for thinking time. So I often tell my clients, like, do you have any thinking time in your day? And we'll do like a calendar audit and we'll look at their weekly calendar. And so many people have back to back. They're going from one thing to
Yes.
the next with no spaciousness in their calendar whatsoever. And this could be true for whether any human, whether it be in corporate or outside of corporate. If you are going back to back to back, then you don't have that stillness. You don't have the spaciousness, and you don't have the ability for your brain to shift into, and your nervous system to shift into a place where you're actually able to think about possibilities and create other options. And that's often sometimes why when people are stuck, I say, go for a mindful walk, because it's in this stillness that you can go, is that your only possibility? Because when you're moving so fast, all you see is that one next step, and you don't see that actually there may be other paths that you could take. And I think it's really important to know that we can choose, go back to choice, to create spaciousness and stillness and put ourselves into a scenario where we are slowing ourselves down to try to ensure that we access those parts that are more creative, that look at possibility, that look at innovation, that look at different pathways to get somewhere. And so if you haven't tried it, I would just say, and it does take practice. Everything we do, we say takes practice. You got to do it over and over and over again. It might not be on your first mindful walk that creativity like blossoms in you. But after you do it for a while, you'll realize like all of a sudden your brain has this ability to sort of come up with other beautiful ideas that it doesn't have when you're on that treadmill of life.
I love the word still.
Mm,
And I am a strong believer that creativity needs space to blossom. You
mm,
must give it its space. You must give yourself the space. And stillness is something that I had dinner with a girlfriend just last night, and we were celebrating her birthday, and she said something that I literally got choked up at the table. She said, my mom gave me a card, and in the card, it said, darling, go back to your core of stillness. That
mm,
is your word for your birthday. And she's going through transformation, trying to figure out what she wants to do next. Um, and it was so powerful because reality is we have always done our best, even as children. We got our creativity from being alone and quiet. You know how now parents go totally nuts when they don't hear any noise and they think that the kid is wrecking the world. But reality is, yes, they may be doing something that we may assume to be mischievous because it's out of our norm, but they're being creative. They're taking that time. That that box is a train. That box
Mm.
is a plane. That box is a car. That box is a house. They are being creative in their stillness and space. And that is like totally amazing. Now, I want to say to everyone, I am not a runner. God gave me legs, so I do walk. But I am not, I'm not a tree hugger. I'm not out there. Nature is the water is my thing, but nature isn't in the sense of the trees and all that stuff because I don't like bugs. So you could not be with two more biggest opposites. But I will tell you how I have found my stillness. And for me, is floating. And I know I've talked about floating before, but I don't think people know what floating is.
Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah. So floating is when you go into this capsule and there's a great deal of salt that they put and water in the capsule. You're only in about 6 inches of warm water. And when you get into the capsule, because of the ratios, you automatically float.
Mm.
And it's almost like returning back to the womb. That is what the capsule is actually giving you that sense of. Now, the first time, the woman came to me and she says, "Okay, this is your capsule. This is how you get in. If salt gets in your in your eyes, you have this little spray that you put on, and you can turn on music. You can have crystal, beautiful little stars in the capsule, or you could leave the capsule open until you feel comfortable." So that first time, I go and I climb into the capsule, and the room gets dark, and I get into the water, and I almost give myself a concussion because I slammed into the top of the capsule.
Oh
This is my first time. And then I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. Of course, I'm totally alone, but I'm still screaming, I'm okay. and,
no.
then, and then I get into the capsule and I said, okay, so I am floating. And I turn off the music because I didn't like the music. And all of a sudden it says, your session is beginning. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do?
Now what?
And one thing I had to realize, there's nothing to do.
Mm.
The only thing I had to do was be with me.
Mm.
Now, your brain never turns off. Let's just be very realistic. In the beginning, when you're in that experience, your brain is going 1,000 miles an hour, and you start thinking about, I didn't do this today. Oh my God, I got to plan that. Oh, I got a phone call I got to make. I got to. But that is also good
Mm.
because it sets your awareness of you. And then after the first 10 minutes of all that flurry, I turned off the lights. I didn't have the stars anymore. And that was my moment of quiet. And in there, I started asking myself questions. What do I want? What do I want to do? And I didn't really answer them. I just floated. And little by little, I just got lost in quiet. And little ideas started coming. And I got so excited about, oh my God. It was funny because you could be there for 60 minutes or 90. And there was this thing of, oh, I got to go do. But then, when you lift your body, it pulls you back and you're like, no, I need to be here. This is where I need to be. And floating has become for me a major part of my ability to innovate, a major part of my ability to have the strength to do all that I do. And I go every other week, and it is truly my self-care
Mm.
and my place of strategy, innovation, and also where I refuel to be ready for others. So, your space,
Mm.
if you want to be creative, you must let space happen. And it could be walking, it could be running, it could be in the shower, it could be cooking. It doesn't matter, but it has to be your space to just let your brain open up and blossom.
I I'm sort of basking in like the tone of your voice, the thought of floating. It's less like glorious. I do love to float. I am a tree hugger. So, people that know me, I am like nature and I have become the bestest of friends. So I float, but in the ocean or
Mhm.
wherever I can, I float, but never in this chamber, which sounds incredible. And now, of course, my family thinks it's hysterical because I just like go off by myself and float. And my one of my daughters can't really float really well. I'm so sorry to say that, but it's hysterical. And we just giggle because it is sort of a skill when you're out in the, like being
Mhm.
able to really float without the stress of like I can't keep my feet up and I can't. And so for those that can't float, I feel for you because it takes away from this glorious
There's
release.
float
I will
therapy.
say.
If you can't float, there's float therapy.
There
Come
you go. See,
on.
I oh my god, I love it. But the interesting thing, I had 2 thoughts when you were talking, and one is sort of such the opposite of this beautiful floating chamber that you're talking about. But as you were talking, I was thinking about how much I've grown in creating space for stillness and how I know I need it. And just like you said, you've integrated it into your routine. You've
Yeah.
made it a practice because you know how important it is. And I would say my mindful walks in nature, I make sure that at least once a week I'm by myself. So I don't even take my dog because I love my dog Marzo, but he's a distraction. Like he's talking to other dogs or I don't know where he is because I let him off lead. So I won't take him. I won't go with a friend and I just go by myself. And that is a practice for me now. And that is where a lot of insights come to me. But my ability now, because the more we practice it, this stillness, and I'm hoping some of you could even hear as Nio was wrapping up her conversation, her speech slowed. She was talking about stillness in a way that was more still.
Mhm.
Her tone softened. That capability to bring ourselves into stillness is a skill that can be learned and then practiced. And I was thinking about how happy I am that I have learned the skill. And when you talked about a chamber, I went to the MRI chamber,
Mm.
and I'm high risk for breast cancer, full disclosure. So I'm on a protocol of mammogram and MRI. I know many women are. So if you're listening, I can relate. And initially, those MRIs were really, I got super claustrophobic
Yeah.
and I used to have to medicate. And I finally, after I got into this practice of stillness, was able to sort of like you said, that moment where you first get in there. And for those of you that have been in those MRIs, the sound is kind of really can put you into your own sort of anxious state. It's
Mhm.
just it's overwhelming. But I have been able over time to use that time because I know how to still myself. And all of a sudden, I use the noises and they change, based on which part of the test you're in, creatively. So I try to blend with whatever the crazy noise is to put me into some other scenario that my body doesn't get anxious about, you know? So if it's some big thing, I picture myself, you know, in a different land. It usually takes travel. I sort of
Mhm.
use the MRI to go travel to some other location, but the sound vibrations that come, I sort of decide where I'm going to go. And in those moments, so I had this really cool, I guess I was like, you know, proud that I have been able to transition to take that really anxiety provoking moment and be able to create something new. So it really felt creative because as you talked about it, I thought, ah, right, that was a beautiful example of how practice can lead you to being able to say, I'm going to use this time in a different way, and that doesn't have to be like an MRI chamber, certainly, but that we do get to control some of our abilities to access that creativity. And I think that's really amazing. And I also think you referenced childhood
Mhm.
and kids using a box. And obviously, I think we are probably at our most creative when we're children and given that kind of spaciousness. And one of the activities that we've been doing in circles that I've had is collaging. And this ability to just, there literally are always just like stacks of magazines and
Right.
markers and all sorts of fun stuff. And instead of writing down in your journal, the option is to just collage and pick out pictures that represent words and what you're feeling. So taking like what's going on inside and just representing it in some other way. And so I was thinking as we talk about how to create spaciousness and stillness to be creative, that came to mind for people who haven't collaged in a really long time. I am like, go for
Yeah.
it. First of all, finding the magazines is not so easy. We used to all have like a million magazines and we just like pick
Mhm.
five. I've had to ask certain people like, do you still have magazines, and get them? But that is a beautiful, fun, I mean, just sit with a bunch of people, throw a bunch of magazines in the middle, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're accessing these crazy parts. What are you attracted to? What sort of makes you go, ooh? And then just like you learn a lot about yourselves just through collaging. So that you made me think about that because as a kid, I feel like we did a lot of that, and we can resurrect that. We can make a choice to put ourselves in those positions to access those parts of ourselves that are really creative.
You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. I remember that back when I was in the corporate world, one of the things that I always did with my team is create collages. And they would do their collage. You know, I would give them a frame and we would just cut pictures. And it was about, you know, if someone was to meet you and you can't say a word, who are you?
Oh, I love that.
And it was wonderful. People had pictures of their family, pictures of their dog. They had their favorite sporting event, but it didn't matter. It was their creative
Mm.
testament to who they are, right? And it was wonderful. And then we would frame, you know, it's in the frame, and everybody would have it at their cubicle or in their office. And when you came in, you had a point of reference to that person. You knew if they liked bowling, you knew if they liked running, you knew if they liked music, if they liked floating. Whatever it was, it didn't matter. They had a picture, and it was just a great way to connect.
Mm.
So collaging is not for kids, it's for us. It's really us just being open to maybe our future and have it
Mhm.
as a vision board,
Yeah.
or have it as a, this is who I am today and this is my vision of who I'm going to be. So think of that as a first step of using your creativity. The power of creativity is has no rules.
I
There are no
know.
rules. Go
Just
for it.
have fun with it. Yes. Yes.
I
I
love it.
love that. And I love the challenge or the invitation, not a challenge, the invitation to our listeners. Yeah, what have you been creative lately? Like what is it that sparked that creativity? And if not, Can you try something new and fun? As simple as clothes. I mean, I'm not kidding. I was like, what would be fun to put on that's more flary and fun? That was pretty simple example, but I love it. Yeah, what can you do? How can you get more creative and how can you bring some friends along? Because I also think that creativity
Mhm.
in community it amplifies, right? You see what somebody else is doing, or like I see your outfit. I mean, honestly, like since we do podcasts, I think a little bit more about my outfits because you're always bringing it with your hair and your fun outfits. So literally, it can be contagious. Like, how do I like lean into that? And so I would love to invite our listeners to think about how they could be creative if they haven't been, or if they have been, how do they share that with others and just get us to be in this beautiful moment of leaning into our own creativity.
Now, it's the other thing that, as we've been talking about creativity, there's one common thing that has happened throughout this session. We can't stop smiling.
It is true.
We can't stop smiling because it's freeing. To be creative is to be free.
No
So
rules, like you
there's
said,
no
no rules.
rules. And it's like I can't get this smile off my face, and I'm really trying. And I can't. I'm just like,
Oh,
wow, this is so much fun. Yeah, I'm going to do a board, a collage. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to do a
yes.
new collage. I forgot about how much I enjoyed doing that. And that's creativity.
Mm,
Don't isolate it. Let it be free and let it be open at any opportunity you have,
mm,
because it's all about reframing what's in front of you and having the freedom to see it differently and try it differently.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that, what is the joy song for this episode? And I am going with Aventuro by
Mm,
Silvano Estrada, which is adventure in Spanish. And the second one is Do You Realize by the Flaming Lips. Both
mm,
are about be creative, be sassy. Do you realize that you can do anything you want? Aventuro, do you understand that life is your adventure to be
mm.
had? Let's look at our gratitude rocks.
I love it. I just have to say that made me go like dancing through life. I just was like, again, can't stop moving, can't stop smiling. This is like, woo, we got this. All right, let's see. Haha.
Ah,
Today sort of matches my shirt, which is sort of fun.
yeah.
The color is a beautiful green, and the word is grow. Ah, it's always amazing, these words. Grow. Well, growth is creativity. Creativity leads to growth. It is hard not to move forward. We always talk about that movement being where we're headed, right? Like, how do we just move forward? How do we just keep in flow forward? Forward motion and creativity leading to our growth and our forward motion seems so clear and so appropriate.
Completely. So here's our creativity giving us the flow to literally look at life a little bit different. Take the courage to put a little risk in it, and most importantly, have joy, gratitude, and a smile. We'll see you soon.